has a shot, but it goes the other way.
Lebas.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit older than you.
And I'm not touching this topic. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Mediocre, mid-table, rabble, aren't
So I just want to be able to talk as much
If you
crap.
play a night game, he has to turn the bloodlines on.
No one would have believed that he would keep his job for as long as he had. But
Okay, so looking at this, we're live. Welcome again. Thanks for joining us for another Wednesday. I forgot the name of the show. Then that's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's another Wednesday week.
Says it up here.
Exclusive. I think it does somewhere. Yeah, another Wednesday week exclusive. My name's Dan Fudge. Welcome to the show. We've got Ash, Dave, Steve, Ben, and Vic, and joining us, very special guest. Played for us in the 90s, and you know what it's like if you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan. It don't count if you didn't support us in the 90s. So please welcome Mr. Jon Newsome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Our absolute pleasure, John. Now, you played for us twice. One in the late 90s, and then one through a rich time in our history. One that we all bang on about, and all those of a certain age constantly remember that team. So you're gonna have to tell us to start with them, mate. How quick actually was Des Walker?
It was. Yeah, it was quick. Quick with his tongue as well. But yeah. It was rapido, was Des, and he always took it as like a bit of a personal thing. Whenever especially when we played Liverpool, he played Liverpool, and all he wanted to do was mark Michael Owen and make it a race between him and Michael Owen. That was Des down to a T, So no matter what you did in training, Thursday, Friday, out the window, 10 to 3, Saturday, because I'm marking him, and you just do what you want to do. That was it. Seriously.
So, guys, open it up. Who wants to ask John a question?
Fire away. Come on, don't be shy.
Don't all shout at once, lads and lasses. Sorry, Vic.
Well, I was just going to say, John, obviously you were the first real big money signing, weren't you, back in the day? Did you come to us for over $1 million? I think.
1.6?
From Norwich, 1.6 million, yeah.
Obviously, that in today's money is a big move. Did it feel like that at the time, or is it like looking back now? Obviously we know that you deal cars and stuff now, and you're doing do you look back and think, fucking hell, was that my life? Was I this multi-million pound signing if it was today?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I do look back. I think at the time you don't actually sort of appreciate it because you're in they always say you're in a bit of a bubble, but that is your life. Your life is, from being 6-year-old, all I wanted to be was a footballer, and then was lucky that managed to break through the first time at Wednesday, and then situation which we can go into later if you want. But then obviously I left, and Leeds came in for me, and then I went to Norwich, and I was their first £1 million signing, and it's all a bit sort of not surreal, but a bit. And not the norm, but it's the bubble that you're living in. But now I look back, I'm a couple of months' time, I'm 50-year-old, and I look back and think, is that actually me? You know what I mean? And my son's 23 and goes, can't believe my dad were a professional footballer. It's mad, because he was too young to remember me playing, sort of thing. So yeah, it is really surreal, but I suppose that's one of the nice things about social media, that every now and again there's some stupid 20-odd year anniversary pops up, and loads of really nice fans come on and say nice things to you and massage your old ego a little bit. So
well, you fucked it on this one, John. Sorry.
What I did miss out is there's plenty of other shithouses as well who come on and give you plenty.
So I'll tell you what then. Tell us about that then. So you got 7 appearances in the league. Is it 7? Your first spell with the club, and then
something like 7 or 8. I turned pro. I signed pro. Towards the end of my apprenticeship, Howard Wilkinson went to Leeds, and Big Ron came in, and he gave quite a number of us pro contracts. Soon into my first year as a pro, he started playing me right back in the reserves. I remember we played Wolves one night. Never played right back, really. You usually don't when you're 6'4", do you? Unless you dug rugby. And I played all right. And then the next minute he put me in the squad. And I think I came on. The first time ever was I came on at Arsenal. I think we were 6-0 down with about a minute to go. And he said, yeah. And he went, get changed, son. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to go on here, you know what I mean? And I think Brian Marwood was playing left wing, and I used to clean Brian Marwood's boots when he was at Hillsborough. So I came on, and Brian Marwood went, oh, fucking hell, I've got apprentices marking me now. You know? And that was it. And then played a few games. Big Ron called me in and said, you know, you've done really well. I'm pleased with you. I want to give you an extension to your 1-year contract. I want to give you another year. And I'm going to give you 50 quid a week rise. Oof. Yeah. Which at the time I was like...
Probably was.
Well, at the time I was like, yeah, I'll sign that. I went, wow, come on, yeah. So I signed it. And then, like, I don't know, it was just bizarre that I never, ever got included in the squad ever again.
So, like, what'd you sign me for?
Yeah. And that... I think the following year, my second year, I was playing in the reserves, obviously, and we won the title. We beat like Liverpool, Man United, Man City. It was the Pontins, the old Central League, and we won the league. So we were doing all right. And I never even got a sniff around the first team until the very last game of the season. We played Oldham away on the plastic pitch, and he put me in the squad, and all our contracts were up that summer. And he put me in the squad. I thought, this is a bit unusual. I wonder if he's like trying to sweeten me up. And then he played me. We got beat 3-2. Played all right. And I was really unsure what to do then. Like, you know, is he going to keep me? It was all right. We didn't really get on that well anyway. He was always on my case a bit. So anyway, he called me in and offered me a new contract. And I just said, I mean, and this was the time well before agents and that kind of stuff. And I told his story that like I was living at home with my mum and dad. I'd not even like told my mum and dad. So he offered me a contract, which weren't great.
Did you get to keep your 50 quid?
Well, he offered me a bit more, sort of thing, and I just said I don't want to sign it, you know. And he was like, "What?" And I look back now, I was like 20-year-old sat in Big Ron's office, like fronting him up, you know what I mean? Saying, no, I'm not signing it. And he turned like really sour, you know, where the fucking hell do you think you're going to go and all this? And I just said, I don't know. I just want to play football at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. I don't want to play in the reserves on a Tuesday night like I've done for 5 years. You know what I mean? And he was like, right, get out of my fucking office and all that, and proper shitty with me. And I went out
Sorry, John, what did you do then? Did you have any hint that anyone was interested, or do you just go, right, who do I know? Get on the phone, ringing around every club?
No, because there were no agents or anything.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Well, I went out and I spoke to Frank Barlow, who was our like reserve team manager, and he said, "Oh God, go back in and see if he'll like do any better." And I went, "What do you think he's going to like change his the way that he trained?" He's like, "No, go on." So I went back in, and I remember he'd offered me 350 quid a week, and I'd said to him, like, I'm nearly 21 years old, and I want to start like moving out from my parents. I want to become independent. Bearing in mind that season we'd signed Gordon Watson, who was playing in the Resis with us. I think I was on 180 quid a week and he was on 600 quid a week, and they give him 60,000 quid signing on fee.
Good browsers then, that wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And he'd offered me 350 quid, and I'm thinking, well, I don't think you don't rate me that much then, do you? So I said, right, what about a signing on fee? So he said, right, I'll give you 300 quid a week and £5,000 signing on fee. So I was like, well, I'm 200 quid worse off. So anyway, so I just said, no, I'm not. So I then had to go home and said to my mum and dad, by the way, I'm out of a job. You know what I mean?
It's a bit different from one of us going home and like we quit as paper round. I've quit.
I'd effectively turned the club down, and I'd literally nowhere to go. And Mick Hennigan, who used to be our youth team manager, was at Leeds United, and he saw there was a tiny little piece in the Star that I'd turned my contract down, and he rang my mum and dad like a couple of days later and just said, the gaffer wants to see a big Howard Wilkinson. He wants you up at Leeds. Come up tomorrow morning, and that was it. So.
And then did they give you a much improved deal, or did you just take the first one?
Yeah. No, I mean, I went. This was the difference for me. I went up there. I drove up in my car, and walked into Ellen Road, and Mick Hennigan's there waiting for me, and he was like looking over my shoulder. I'm thinking, like, what's he looking at? And he said, "Where's your dad?" So my dad's at work. So he went, "Well, the gaffer won't speak to you without your dad." What are you on about? He went, no. It won't speak to you. You're on your own. You've got to get your dad here. So I had to ring my dad at work. I said, Dad, you've got to come up to Leeds. He won't speak to me without you. So my dad had to go home and get changed and drive up to Leeds. And then he got here and it was lunchtime. So Howard said, have you had any lunch, Mr. Newsome? Yeah. And he said, Ian McFarland, who was the head scout at the time, Macca, go take him for lunch. So he took us to the Hilton Hotel, and my dad sat there with big fillet steak on, and thinking it were like it was, brilliant. So, and then I went back in, and they offered me, I'll tell you the figures. They offered me a 3-year contract. What did they offer me? 400 quid a week, I think. 25,000 quid signing on fee. 10,000 quid removals. My old man's just digging me in the ribs going, you better sign here.
He wanted his spare room back, didn't he? You know what I mean?
And the biggest thing for me, it wasn't really the money, because I was like, I just want to play. You know what I mean? I just want to play. And Howard just said to me, I want you in my first team this year. And if you play a handful of games in my first team, I'll be dragging you back in here and giving you a new contract. And that's what I wanted to hear, you know what I mean? I wanted to went home. But I was then sworn to secrecy. I weren't allowed to tell anybody, because there were quite a number of the young players at Wednesday had not signed contracts. And Howard asked me that, and he turned to Mick Hennigan and he said, right, go and get the lot of them. Yeah, he did, yeah.
Did anybody else come over?
Dave Weatherall. Dave Weatherall was the only one who came. Everybody else, Graham Hyde, Marlon Beresford, a striker called David Johnson. So there were a number that he would have taken. But then I was sworn to secrecy. Leicester City then rang me the following day and said, "Oh, we want you. We understand you've turned your contract down. We want you down here." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I can't tell you I've signed for Leeds." So I was like trying to put Leicester off without actually telling them who I'd signed for. So they got a bit shitty with me, thinking I was just like dodging. But yeah, and again, as a 20-year-old lad, just amazing, really, that you get put in that situation.
So just a bit more like with Big Ron and stuff, John. So did it make it a bit difficult then when obviously you come back to Wednesday and then a year later, Big Ron come back in?
Mate, I can't tell you, honestly. So Pleaty signed me back. Things weren't great, were they? And then he eventually left, and there were all talk of who was coming in and who wasn't coming in, and this and that. And I can't remember which way around. Did Danny Wilson come in first?
No, Wilson was after. Wilson was after Atkinson.
Right, so he was after. So Big Ron came in after Pleaty, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about who was coming in and that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden it got announced, Ron Atkinson, and I literally had my head in my hands thinking, that's me done. And it was. He came in and literally made my life hell for weeks, for months.
I'm just trying to think.
Why is that? Oh, sorry, Dan.
It's all right, mate. I'm just trying to think of some of the players that they got in. So going back to Sheffield Wednesday, I assume that was something quite big for you, something quite personal. Did you want to go back to prove a point with the club?
No. I mean, at the time I was down at Norwich, I played really well, although we got relegated this first season I was there. Again, that was finance. I think we were 6th at Christmas and we ended up going down, which was a travesty, really. We sold like 3 centre forwards that year and never replaced them. And then there was a lot of talk from Christmas. I think Spurs were supposedly in for me. Aston Villa were in for me. And then just before deadline day, it became quite well known that if Norwich didn't sell me and Ashley Ward, I think they were going to go into receivership or administration. So I then got a phone call early one morning from David Pleat saying, we've had a bid accepted. We want you up here. So I was like, wow, yeah, you know what I mean? Back to my own club. Obviously Wednesday up until that time. So that was March 96. So 94, 95, 96-ish, they were doing all right, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking I'm coming back and joining like a really club in its ascendancy, you know what I mean? A forward-thinking club, and yeah, exactly. And I came up and we had talks for 2 days, and I eventually signed. I was happy to sign, and I walked out from under. At that time, I got an agent. Walked out from the offices, and basically what had happened is Norwich had said to Spurs they wanted £2 million for me, and they'd agreed 1.6 with Sheffield Wednesday, and Spurs knew this was happening, so said no, we're not paying extra just because we're Tottenham. We'll match the 1.6, and Robert Chase wouldn't accept it. And I came out from having signed for Sheffield Wednesday, and my agent's phone beeped, and it was Jerry Francis saying, right, they've accepted 1.6. Get yourself down to White Hart Lane for talks. So, but I'd already signed, so I was quite pleased to have done that. I was coming back to my hometown club, a club I supported all my life, and yeah, I was really looking forward to it. And when I first came in, things were great, but I soon found out that there was a big fraction in the dressing room, really. You know what I mean? Pleaty wanted a few of the older heads out. There was some experienced lads in there who I was looking forward to playing with, really. You know, Wads and Ersty and Sheridan and people like that. And unbeknown to me, David Pleat was trying to get them all out the door. So,
wow. Go on, Ash. Sorry, mate, I cut you off there.
No, you're all right. No, it's I forgot exactly. Totally what I was going to ask then. Anyway. I should have said it don't matter. It's gone now anyway. So
what I was going to ask, Dan, if that's all right, is with the time you came in, John, that second time round, and with your hopes and your aspirations and where you thought we were going to go. I know you obviously had your own personal injury problems in that second spell, but you seem to have been at the club right in the middle of when the end of the good things were just finishing off to the beginning of the really bad times that we're still suffering now.
We're not saying it's your fault, John.
Not saying it's your fault. You just happened to be there at that time.
Yeah, you're not be the first. Don't worry.
Can you see now, with a bit of retrospect and looking back, what was it that was going so wrong over that period of 4 years that stopped us from kicking on the way that you'd hoped and we'd obviously all hoped? So the fact that you've got a team now that's now 20 years.
I was like you guys. I thought I'm coming back to a club that's making its way up the Premier League, and you know, got England internationals in it, and the fact that they not broke the bank, but they paid strong money for me, really. I'm thinking, wow, you know, I've come back to a club that now wants me, as opposed to, you know, like a homegrown lad and that kind of thing. And I just think it was, if anything, it was probably from the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it was mismanaged from the top. I think the club had, not the players as such, but I think the club at some point had probably got an arrogance about it that, you know, we are this, you know, top half of the table Premier League club, and I don't think you can't look at football like that, because I think when you do get complacent in football, in any sport really, but football especially, it will bite you on your backside big time, you know. And I think that I could see that creeping in, and then there was the debacle of managers, wasn't there? Because Pleaty didn't really stamp his authority and got undermined, I feel, by some of the players who he was trying to get out. That all went belly up, really. Big Ron came in.
Tell us about that then. So Big Ron's come back in, and you're both looking at each other across the change room like, shit, like that's a bit orcs, isn't it? And then, and then I was trying to think of some of the players that have come in your position. So you had around the time. So it was obviously there was you and
right.
Dave.
So he signed a was he a Hungarian centre back?
Big Sedloski.
Goce Sedloski.
Aye.
Who got
the new Tony Adams, apparently.
He'd literally got one leg shorter than the other. It's serious. He'd had a car crash when he was young, and Dave Galley, the physio, had said, right, he's failed his medical because one leg was
Macedonian getting in a car crash. It was the way you said it.
Honestly. One of his legs was shorter than the other, and he brought him in
circles.
And you were just, and it was just like, right, you're sub. I was like, oh, there we go. You know what I mean? And it was just,
right.
Just caught like even in training, just constantly on your back in training, and you know what I mean. And then I played a few games, and we played Derby away, and he took his coat off at half time. He wanted to have a fight with me, and. You know, exactly. You know what I mean? I'm 27, 28-year-old, probably the prime of my life, fit, strong, and I've got like this 60-year-old man taking his sheepskin off, hunting me up.
Was that just like a clash of personalities, John, or was it something? I don't know. Is it something?
I think what it was when I turned him down as a kid. Yeah, I mean, when I was in the reserves, I don't know. I used to have this thing about the reserves. So we'd play a game in the reserves. We'd play like Liverpool away, and you get a result at Liverpool away. And he'd either come and watch you, or Richie Barker would come and watch you, and he'd say, "Right, brilliant, great game, well done, lads. Everybody have the day off tomorrow because it's a Wednesday. Apart from the under-21s, you're in training." And we were like, "What?" You'd be getting home at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be in for training at 9 o'clock, and there'd be 6 of you, and you'd have Albert Phelan going, "Well, what am I supposed to do with you 6? Like, you played a game last night. You're all like walking around like Tin Man. You know what I mean? It was just stupid things like, or if they had a home game on the Saturday, we'd come in for training. We'd train Friday morning and all that." And then they'd say, right, the gaffer wants a 5-a-side at 4:30 in the gym this afternoon. And you'd all have to like hang around all day just so he could play 5-a-side in his black bin liner to lose a bit of weight. You know what I mean? You were just like, I don't know. He just didn't treat you like a professional or a human being, really. He just took the piss out of you a little bit, really. And I think when I got the contract.
Let me stop you there. I think you're the only person I've ever heard in the history of football say that Ron Atkinson wasn't a very good man manager because like he clearly had no idea what was going off around him. You know what I mean? I find it odd that he was a football person, and for you to actually tell him like I can't tell if it's refreshing or you've lost.
I think the way he was if you were in his first team. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, like people like Nigel Pearson, Nigel Pearson and Big Ron clashed like you've never known.
Yeah.
Big time. And I mean, like, he'd join in training and you'd see Nigel Pearson kicking lumps out of him, you know. Honestly, we were like, and I'm stood there watching it going, yeah, go on, Nigel, do him again. Because we just clashed or whatever it was, but I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of us like that. But I think when you were in his first team, you're not always going to get on with your manager, whoever it is. You know what I mean? You have personality clashes, you have disagreements on tactics or what he's asking you to do. And as an experienced pro, you'll question that and say, well, I'm not sure that's right. Because at the end of the day, you want to win. And that's how it happens. It does happen. But
was it difficult then, John, after you'd gone away, and seemingly it sounds like you had quite a good relationship with Howard Wilkinson and John Dean made you the captain at Norwich. So you had you between the first time you'd had Ron Atkinson and you had these other coaches that had brought you into a senior member of the team, giving you the responsibility. And then you got Atkinson again. Was it even more about the issues you're going to have with Atkinson after having good coaches and good first team coaches at Leeds and Norwich?
Yeah, definitely. I remember we played Blackburn at home, and they got Sutton and Shearer up front, and I think we drew 0-0. And I come off thinking, I think I've done my job today. You know what I mean? You know, prolific 2 strikers. We've kept a clean sheet. I personally think I've done all, you know, we've done all right as a team, and I've done my job. And this was the other thing. We then wouldn't see him. He would never. He'd never come to training. We wouldn't. You know. We played, and the following Saturday we played Leicester away, and that was the first time we saw him since after the game on Saturday. And he came into the team meeting at like 1:30, and for 10 minutes told me what I'd done wrong against Blackburn the week before. And we walked out, and Peter Atherton walked up to me, and he just, excuse my French, and he just said, "He fucking hates you, doesn't he?" Mm-hmm. I was like, "Yeah, he does, yeah." You know what I mean? And that's how stupid it got, really. Mm-hmm. You know, but that's part of football. I think sometimes people don't see, don't appreciate that it's not always a happy camp in there, no matter how well or how badly you're doing. You're going to have personality clashes. You're going to have clashes with teammates. If you want to win, and if you wear your heart on your sleeve, which I think as a Sheffield lad, a Yorkshireman, I tend to do. You know, I'm not one for biting my lip. You do end up.
You think? I don't think we've had any gossip like this tonight. I thought finding out Franny Jefferson shit himself the other week was exciting.
So it's just it happens, you know what I mean, and it is the norm. And I think even back then there were no phones, there were no cameras, there were no videos. You know, there were plenty of fisticuffs, there were plenty of, you know, punches thrown and fights in training, but you just got on with it. You shook each other's hand after you walked off, and you cracked on, because you were all, at the end of the day, you were all aiming for one thing, and that's to get 3 points in the next game, wasn't it? So,
I keep telling that to lads I play Sunday League with. You know what I mean? Lads, it's not personal. If I call you, you know, I'm dropping C-bombs and I'm using phrases that they've never heard before. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then go, lads, we're all just going to have a pint after. It's all right. Your mum. Now, come on. You don't get it. Sorry, Steve, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to ask you, so you mentioned Peter Atherton obviously coming up and saying, he can see it. Were there other players that were there at the time that were coming up to you and sort of saying, he's got it in for you here? And was there ever anybody that would sort of go in there and sort of fight the corner for the people that you might have been feeling a little bit marginalised, or was it a sort of a herd mentality?
Not so much. No, not so much. Like I mean, like Paolo had massive run-ins with him, massive fights, and
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You know, remember we played Coventry away, and we came in after the game, and Big Ron was digging him out and said something like, you know, you should be embarrassed to pick your wages up this week. And Paolo it was like bonfire night. It was like this firework went off, bang, and he stood up. And we'd not seen Ron for probably a week, and he was in his face, you know, you tell me that I'd pick my wages up. We don't see you from 1 week to the next. And he was giving him own truths, really, you know. And then next minute, sheepskin's coming off, and he wants to have a rub with him. And we're all sat there going, oh, this is just comical, like, you know what I mean?
I think he actually mentions that in his book. He actually writes about that in his book. I remember. Yeah. Paolo released his book, and I was really excited about it. And there's literally half a chapter about Danny Wilson don't know what he's doing, and then I had a fight with Ron Atkinson in his sheepskin coat. Literally, that's it.
Yeah, he was a good lad, though, Paolo. He was all right. He was a good lad, very clever individual. You know, once said to us, not long after he'd come from Celtic, he once said to us, you know, every move I've made in football, I've instigated. And we all looked at each other like, wow. And then when he pushed the ref over, we're all looking at each other going, I wonder if he's planned this, you know?
I'll do it.
It's a bit crazy, like, but does he want out? You know?
Every Christmas as well, when he got an extended break.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, fittest player, proper fitness freak, work hard, extra training, did extra running, not an ounce of fat on him, and then he'd be going, oh, I need to lose 2 pounds. And I'm like, there's no on you, mate, But yeah, did his strengthening, conditioning. Yeah, he was a proper professional, though, proper professional. And also, like, what a player. Massively.
I asked this Craig Armstrong last week, and there was and we were talking about it, so that time between your career started in the late 80s, and then by the mid 90s, there would have been an entire change in the way football was approached, because what referred to as the bloody foreigners came over. And all of a sudden, because they were taking it serious, they were watching what they were eating, they weren't going out and doing a Paul Merson night out. You know what I mean? They came over. Did that give you a kick up the arse to work on your fitness and or did you just think, I'm massive, I'll be all right?
No. The advantage, the bonus for me was that I played under Howard.
Right.
So when I went to Leeds in 91, you were banned from being on licensed premises 72 hours before a game. We were on protein and carbohydrate diets. It was
as early as that.
Yeah. I hear all these things about Arsene Wenger changed how footballers live their life and all that. Howard Wilkinson was doing that, not probably to the extent of Arsene Wenger, but yeah, we went out, and we got Gordon Strachan, Gordon Strachan is quite possibly the fittest footballer I've ever played football with. Incredible athlete. He used to have like these pressure points because he was like lily white, obviously with his red hair, and before the game he'd like rub these pressure points, so he'd have these big red dots all over his body, and he had like honestly, and he lived on these like seaweed tablets, so he'd have like 15 seaweed tablets a day, and proper fit, strong.
So not the typical Scottish diet of deep fried Mars bar and haggis.
No, hence he played at 35. He was probably the best and most influential footballer I ever played with was Gordon Strachan.
Gordon Strachan from Scotland. He has iron brew and heroin for breakfast. I'm pretty sure.
35-year-old, incredible athlete, fitness levels. And that's what he was, I mean, and don't get me wrong, we like to beer. We go out and have a beer, but at the right times. And
where did you go, John?
In Leeds or in Sheffield?
Let's say Sheffield. Bugger it, because Majestics is a boring answer.
Yeah. I mean, my first time round, so I was like an apprentice, first year pro, and all that. It'd have been Henry's.
I'll just put Revolution.
Don't put Revolution.
Stonehouse.
He tries to get Revolution mentioned on every chuffing podcast.
No.
Berlin's, yeah.
Stonehouse.
Berlin's.
Legends.
Yeah.
Some old school places.
Were you a bit too late for Josephine's, or was that still around?
No, we sort of like cracked onto Josie's probably like first year, second year professional level. When you were an apprentice, you weren't in Josie's. You'd have got mullered off the pros, like so. Cairo Jacks.
I tell you what, I'm pretty sure I saw you in Brannigan's and Club Wow one night out, mate. I'm pretty
probably,
sure.
Yeah, probably.
I tell you, best thing about Club Wow, I don't know if any of you are on. Ben, you won't remember. You were a fetus. No. They used to have these.
Ben was just a twinkle in his dad's eye.
Yeah, I thought you were -3. And then what they had over the urinal were these cushions on the walls with these handles on it. So when you were pissed up, just that's all right, that like you know what I mean. Brilliant. And now they just have a shelf. Don't know what that's for. So Ben, have you heard?
I think now it's a Nando's Club Wow.
It's not. It's Cheeky Monkey's play area.
It is. Yes, Brannigan's is
exactly the same. It's exactly the same. You walk in and there's a big climbing frame. You think, yeah, that's exactly where we were dancing. Then you go around the corner. It's exactly the same layout.
Ash, stop sharing stories about us in Club Wow. Let's.
All right.
We're on the interweb. Ben, ask something normal.
So we've said a bit about Di Canio, but what about Carboni and them two as a pair? What were they like in dressing room?
So, all right, Benny. When Benny arrived, Benny was like this innocent, young lad from like this southern Italian village. Didn't speak a word of English. I think we played Coventry or somebody away, and we were in the hotel, and Pleaty brought him in and introduced him, sat him down with the lads. Like, if you think back to it, kid didn't understand a word of English. So obviously within 10 minutes, we've taught him how to say "fuck off," bastard.
And
so
he walked relish.
Yeah, and he walked through the reception. Some woman stood on his toe, and he started calling her, "Oh, you fucking bastard!" So all lads were dying. But he was like really innocent. In fact, pal of mine who was in like he was a bank manager and that kind of stuff, and we sort of like took him under our wing a little bit and tried to find him a house to live in because he was stuck in a hotel, and he was great. And then Paolo arrived, and I think Benny was a bit starstruck to begin with that like this like amazing Italian had arrived to join him, and then he saw how Paolo behaved. Paolo was obviously quite a bit edgy and, got loads of tattoos, and all of a sudden Benny's like coming in covered in tattoos and started growing his hair and then started like following around Paolo and they paired up and started doing very similar kind of things to what Paolo was doing. And so I think Paolo was a big influence on Benito. Yeah.
Not always positive.
But incredible footballers, both of them. You know what I mean? Training, yeah, they were just. I mean, good lads. They joined in. Could never understand us and our British mentality, I don't think. But yeah, nice kids. Good in the dressing room. We got on with them.
Tell us about. We've asked this of players that have played in the era at the time. What went wrong with Wim Jonk?
He signed for Sheffield Wednesday, didn't he?
Oh yeah, all right. Right.
That was the first thing, wasn't it? I don't know. I mean, at that time,
final page.
He brought Wim Jonk in, then he brought Bob the Builder. He brought Gerald Sibon. So they all arrived.
And Barry Orne.
Big signings, massive contracts. And I think that was, for me, the start of where it probably went wrong. And I remember, I mean, I was on the peripheral then. I wasn't, I was a squad member, wasn't being, so I was having my own disagreements with Danny Wilson because I wanted to get away. I wanted to go and start playing football again.
Is that because Emerson Tome had kind of taken your shirt a little bit? Did you find?
Well, he was playing. He was playing instead of me, which I have no issue with that. If I go and knock on the manager's door and say, right, I'm not playing week in, week out. I'm 28-year-old. You obviously prefer somebody else in the team. That's not an issue, but I want to play football. I don't want to sit on the bench. So can I go out on loan? Can I, do you want to, am I part of your plans? Or if I'm not, can I go? Will you sell me? Oh, no. You're a massive part of my plans. You're not going out on loan. Well, I'm not even playing in the reserves, so I'm not even match fit. But I don't need to play in the reserves because I don't want you to get injured. And you're like, well,
what do I do?
And then I played a couple of games and did all right, and we won. And then he got dropped again, and then he played me at right back. And when you're 18, 19, you play at right back, you think, I'll play anywhere because I just want to play, don't I? You know what I mean? You just want to get your day. But I think when you're 27, 28, and the club's paid big money for you, you've got a good number of games behind you as a centre half. Yeah, I think you're in your rights to say, I don't want to play right back. I'm a centre half, and if you don't fancy me at centre half, I have no issue with that. But let me go and play football somewhere else.
Was Wilson just out of his depth? Then I take it, just with with where he came from and the success he had, to all these egos, these personalities, money was wasted.
I don't understand why he I mean, I couldn't work on and tell you about what happened with me face to face, and I'd go and see him, and he sort of like told me things that I think he thought I wanted to hear, rather than telling me the truth. And I'd much rather him say, you know what, News, you're not doing it for me. I'm going to get rid of you. And I'd have said, not a problem. You know, you're not the first one to sell me or get rid of me or say I don't think you're good enough, or that's football. That's how you. That's why you grow thick skin. You know what I mean?
Especially when you've got 40,000 Yorkshiremen telling you shit some weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So you do have to grow thick skin, and I went on loan. I went on loan to Bolton. Did really well there. Came back. There were a few clubs in for me after me, and he said, no, I won't let you go. And then Birmingham, Trevor Francis tried to sign me at Birmingham. I did agree a deal with Birmingham. And then just as we were setting off to go to Birmingham to have talks, Trevor Francis phoned my agent and just said, right, it's off. It's all off. And we're like, why? What's happened? And basically how our transfer works, I think, let's say it was £1.5 million and I was going to sign a 3-year deal, they'd pay 500 grand at the start of every year. So it's split, the transfer fee split over the term of the contract. And Sheffield Wednesday had said, no, we want £1.5 million up front, or you're not having him. And Trevor just said, I've been at the club. I know how much they, move the goalposts and they're going to mess me around. So I'm sorry, it's off. And that was it.
Jesus.
So, and it's things like that, you know what I mean? And then, unfortunately, I'd done my ankle against Wimbledon, and that weren't great. That didn't get diagnosed properly, and I finally come back from that. And then my knee I was struggling with my knee, and I did that after about half an hour in the Mullering at Newcastle. And at the time, I was arguing with Danny Wilson, because again, I'd said to him, I'd actually handed a transfer request in that week, because I'd been to see him and said, look, we can't really do this anymore. You know what I mean? You're constantly telling me one thing and I'm doing another. And he said, well, you're going to be involved on Sunday. And I said, well, I'll tell you now, don't play me at right back, because I'm not a right back. Play me at centre half, or just don't play me at all. No, you're not playing at right back. And he didn't name the team till an hour before kick-off, and he put the team up and he went, right, Kevin Pressman in goal, right back Jon Newsome. I was like, what? Yeah. So we came in at half time. I think we were 4-0 down and my knee was hanging off. And I thought, if I now say I'm coming off, he'll think I've like bottled it or chucked one in, won't he? So I played the rest of the game, and that was it. That was it, really. They said, like, my knee, I damaged my knee, but it wasn't too bad. And 2 operations, and 4 months later, surgeon said, right, that's it, you're done. You've got to hang your boots up. So
Jesus. What, just that's it? Just straight
up?
Yeah,
that was it. That was it, yeah. So
Right, so as it normally goes, sorry, Vic.
Sorry, I'd just like to talk, Dan.
It's all right. I was going to just hand over to you now. I was wondering if you want to do your bit.
Oh, no, I'll do that in a minute. So, John, how do you cope with something like that mentally? Like, do you get any sort of support with that? Because obviously, you said your entire life you wanted to be a footballer. You were a Sheffield Wednesday fan. You've gone out to Bolton and whatever, and then all of a sudden, someone says that's it. How does that hit somebody? Like, I just can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think the way that it happened as well for me was left a real sour taste in my mouth with the club. I'd had a second operation on my knee, and they'd said to me, it was about sort of like about this time, April, May time, and they'd said my contract was up in the summer, and I'd be prior to my injury, I'd agreed to go on if I got to the end of my contract, I was going to go on a free to Bolton, and they'd offered me quite a substantial deal. But then I'd injured my knee in September, so I'd had this second operation. The club had said, we want you to go away on holiday for a couple of weeks, and when you get back, you can then do your rehab through the summer, so you don't get a summer break. And what we'll do is we'll support you and give you like a week-to-week contract and if you get fit, you know, we would then expect you to sign a new contract with us. And I said, oh, you know, that'd be brilliant. You know, if you would support me through the summer, I would stay as long as you want me to stay, because one good favour deserves another one for me. So I went away on holiday and I came back, and there was a letter on the doorstep, and I opened it, and it was from the club, and it just said, we're terminating your contract.
Via letter.
Yeah, via letter.
Right.
So.
Now on Facebook, John, a couple of people have just sat watching us out there on the interwebs. I've got Steve Jones. He's gone with what car did you drive the second time you were at Wednesday?
What car?
Yeah, but I assume he's having some banter. Is he fishing? Is he?
No, I don't know. I bought a BMW M3.
Ooh, showbiz at the time, my friend. I'm still trying to save up for one now.
And to make it, I always wanted one when I was at Norwich, and I wanted a yellow one, but I couldn't buy a yellow one. Playing for Norwich, I'd have looked an even bigger knob than I did anyway.
Fanboy.
So I bought a yellow one when I went Wednesday and thought that were a good idea as well.
What was it like playing with Vinnie Jones? That's from James Cockins.
Never played with him. Only played against him. He'd left Leeds when I went to Leeds, so yeah, just only ever played against him. So.
Two more, same guy. What was the story with Benito Carboni when he walked out of the dressing room at Southampton? Was that a rumour or?
That was funny. That.
Or was it just banter?
No. We were down there. That was Danny Wilson again. We were down there. We get there for 1:30. Right, go and have a look at the pitch while we put the kit out, that kind of thing. We all come back in. So right, this is the team. Name the team. And the subs, these are your 5 subs, and Benny was a sub, and Benny just said, no, I'm not being sub. So we were all like, what? He's like, obviously in his pidgin Italian accent, English, you know, I'm not being fucking substitute and all this. And he got like a little, him and Paolo always used to travel with like a little suitcase, you know, like what you take on aeroplanes now. We'd all have like sports bags, but they had like little suitcases because they were like a bit trendy and chic. And
the frozen pizza in it.
Yeah. No, bottles of Pago juice they used to have. And he walked outside and he phoned a taxi. And he stood outside the Dell and waited for his taxi. And all the Wednesday fans were walking past. And he's outside waiting for, like, and they're all going, Benny, you're playing today? No, you know, all this. And his taxi turned up and he disappeared. Mental.
All right. Well, that was, I assume this is one of his mates, but Adam Todd says, how was Julian Watts in the dressing room? Did he have any banter?
Watsy was only there a little bit when I came back in '96. Watsy was only there, I think, till the end of the season. So, but I know Julian. I played, you know, sort of like schoolboy football with him, really. So yeah, sort of like good friends of his, and yeah, he's all right. Good lad, Watsy.
So no.
No. I've no dirt to spill, if you mean.
Okay, so Vic's going to ask you some quick-fire questions. If that's your bit, Vic, I'll let you introduce it.
Okay, the first thing I was going to ask just before we go into the quick-fire was obviously we're in lockdown at the moment. Everything's gone to shit anyway. But how did you think we were doing before lockdown? Like, do you still follow the club? Do you still go to any games? Do you?
I follow the club. Yeah, I do follow the club. I've not been to as many games in the last 18 months, really, because I've been but I've actually been working at Ellen Road on match days. So because obviously Leeds are doing well, and I'm an ex-player, and they invite you up, and
do you do the little John Pearson thing of going into
yeah, but you know, without dissing Sheffield Wednesday, they have like thousands and thousands of commercial, corporate, you know, there's literally like rows and levels in one of the big stands, and we have to all go around them. I mean, trust me, they get the proper pound of flesh out of you.
And what do we get an ex-player to do the little rolly thing?
Have you done the rolly thing?
The roll, what's it? I don't know what it's called. 50-50, isn't it? Yeah. That's it.
Half-time draw.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. I've done that a couple of times. I think last time I did that, I got booed. So John Pearson rang me up and went, I ain't fucking doing that. I keep getting booed, mate. So,
Come on then, Vic.
So who do you think is our best current player?
Stephen Fletcher.
Who was the class clown when you were there?
Oh, the class clown.
If it's somebody boring like Peter Atherton, I'm
Lee
gonna get
Briscoe or Lansky.
Ersty was always, Ersty was always one to have a laugh. Probably, I suppose I always had a laugh. Jim Magilton was good fun when Jimbo was there. Yeah, he liked to giggle. So
I used to call him Jimmy Magic, and now I'm just going to call him Jimmy Banter.
Who was the worst dressed?
Paolo.
Worst dressed.
No one's met Paolo.
No, Paolo was mint. Paolo had everything skin tight. So he was like 10 years before his time.
I've got no choice. Mine are, but I've got no choice.
She's so ahead of your time, aren't you?
That's why if you watch any of the highlights of him, his shorts, they're rolled over about 6 times. They're like skin tight on his thighs.
Surely Sedloski was the worst dressed because one of his trouser legs didn't fit.
Yeah. Sedloski. Yeah. There were a few. There were a few bad dresses. Ian Nolan was a rascal.
I get the impression that Ian Nolan dressed like a deputy headmaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Patches on elbow. Patches on elbow.
He drove like
Ian Nolan.
He drove like a gold BMW as well. You know what I mean? Like geography teacher.
I can just imagine him wearing everything Puma King out of the club shop and nothing else. His wardrobe at home is just the club shop.
Yeah. Whoever he was sponsored by.
Who was your best mate at the club?
Who was
your best mate?
At Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah.
Ooh.
What about Dave round corner?
Ron Atkinson.
Tough one, really, because I think when I came back to Sheffield, obviously I came back to my home city. So I was back with like all my mates, you know what I mean, who were not footballers. My room partner was Kevin Pressman. So we obviously got on well, me and Prezi. But yeah, there were, Peter Atherton was a good guy, Ersty. A few I'd say, I got on really well with, but best mates. No, you don't really have like best mate. I never really had a best mate in football. You meet you have like loads of acquaintances. You know what I mean? You like at the time that when I was in Norwich, like I got 5 or 6 really good pals, and then I moved to Sheffield Wednesday, and we only ever catch up on Twitter now. You know what I mean? It's a bit random like that, because one week you're best mate and the next week you might be kicking them up in the air. So it's but that's literally how it is, isn't it?
Following on from that, then, who are you still in touch with?
Well, I think social media makes it a lot easier now. So Wednesday lads. I'm still in touch with a lot of the Leeds lads because we do a lot of work on match days, and obviously because they've been doing well the last couple of years, they need more of us, and so we've got a real sort of like crux of us there. A couple of WhatsApp groups and that kind of things. Lads from Sheffield Wednesday, still bumping to John Sheridan now again. See Ersty quite a lot. Obviously,
is he all right?
Who? Ersty?
Yeah, we don't hear from him anymore. Is he all right?
Oh, he's falling out with us.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I've not seen him obviously in lockdown, but yeah,
go around have a pie with him.
Yeah, before that, I'm not in the motor trade anymore, so I've finished that. So I'm now working back in football as an agent. So I see Ersty quite a lot when I go to games because he's doing a bit of that as well.
There you are then, Steve. There you are. Get John in. Send some of your lads up to him. Where are you now, Steve? Get a quick plug in.
Yeah, we're just setting up at Renishaw, so we're just getting a new club off the ground. But
right.
So we'll see you there new season, John. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries.
We've got a couple of players.
Sorted out. Sorted for you, Steve. I want to find this fee. Go on, Vic. Have you got any more?
Yeah, I've got 2. Right,
oh, lovely. Carry on.
Who's the best player you played with?
Gordon Strachan. Undoubtedly. Don't get me wrong, I play with some great players. When Ersty signed for Sheffield Wednesday and I was an apprentice, he was dynamite. You know what I mean? Dalian Atkinson. So in training, I'd be like 17, 18-year-old centre half, and you'd be training on a like 2 or 3 times a week. You'd be playing the first team, first 11, and you got them all Ersty and Dalian Atkinson. So that sort of like brought you on it. You either sank or you swam, you know, and you were soon found out if you didn't do it right. So they were great.
I never thought that a man who's played alongside Gordon Strachan and Paolo Di Canio got asked who the best player he played it, and he picked Gordon Strachan.
I was thinking the same.
Right, so
you know something we don't, John.
So at Leeds, so like Tony DeRigo, England left back, you speak to him and he'll say he's the only right winger I've ever played against who dictated the game from right wing. It was mental, honestly. When I was at Leeds, he was, and he. We always call him like acid tongue because he used to absolutely cut you in half. And half the time you needed it because you were probably getting a bit too big for your boots. And he'd come in and boom and bosh you. You know what I mean?
This tall, like this.
Mate, you wouldn't cross him. You would not cross him. Let me tell you. You know. But also lovely. I signed there, and first few weeks he invited me out with him and his wife, and I'll be like this like wet behind the ears 20-year-old kid, and you've got, 35-year-old ex-Man U Leeds captain invite you out for dinner Saturday night to welcome you to the club. And
Jesus,
you won't
brilliant.
get that these days, though, would you?
No, well, you won't go out. So and yeah, played with some great players: Gary McAllister, Gary Speed, Davey Batty, obviously Paolo, Benny. Some great players.
Wim Young. So have you got a story that we wouldn't know?
Story you wouldn't know?
Yeah, like, so I said earlier, we found out from, who was it? Was it Sean McAllister told us about Francis Jeffers once shitting himself in the middle of the...
Let me get a beer for this if somebody's shitting himself.
Story you wouldn't know. Does it have to be... I've got loads of stories I could tell you.
I think we've already had one in Ron Atkinson wanting to fight everybody.
Right, I'll tell you what. This is one for you. So you remember a guy called Mick Hennigan, who was my youth team coach, went to Leeds United as the number 2, was assistant manager. Well, Mick, loved Mick to bits. Owe him a massive, massive thank you for everything he did for me and my career as a young lad coming through. But we were the proverbial laboratory guinea pigs. We were like, you name it, he would have us doing it. Like he wanted to take us on the moors to live off the land for 3 days to see how tough we were. And seriously, and the best ever piece of man management I've ever seen from any manager or coach was by Mick Hennigan. And we played in the youth team and we got beat at York City away. And we came in on the Monday morning, and I was a first-year apprentice. So we came in on the Monday, we're cleaning the boots and all that, and he called 3 of the second-year apprentices in, and he sacked them on the spot. Said, right, you're sacked, there's your cards. Right, fuck off. So they came back in and they told the lads, and we're all going, we fucking hate him. We calling him all the names under the sun, and real bad vibe around. And you had to get all the kit together, the boots, and put it in this minibus, and go and sit in a minibus and wait for him. And he'd drive the minibus up to the training ground, and then we'd get all the kit out for when the pros got there and the boots. And so we're all sat in this minibus, and we're all like, obviously disgruntled and calling him all sorts, and he comes walking out, and he gets in the minibus, and it's silent, and he turns to us and he says, and I'll try and mimic like the way that he used to speak, and he turned to us and he went, right, I can detect there's an air of disagreement in the camp. So we're all sat there, and he went, so for the next 60 seconds, you can call me whatever you fucking like.
Oh, God.
Exactly. And we're 17, 18. So
my head have exploded.
So you're like, dare you say anything or not? You know what I mean? And I remember Marcus Hawley, one of the apprentices, went, "You fucking wanker," like that. And he went, started laughing. And that was it. For the next 15 seconds, we absolutely pelted him with everything you could give him. We called him every name under sun, and he was crying with laughter. And then went, whoa, 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 that's your minute. And honestly, that bus, that little minibus we were on, then bounced up to the training ground. The spirit, it was incredible. It was incredible. And at the time, you just think it's like crazy, like it's Mad Mick doing his stuff and all that. But you know, I look back on it now and go, wow, that was genius. That.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll do that with my team at work at any point.
How good's that? How good's that? I mean, literally, within a minute, we'd gone from calling him we hated him to loving him in 1 minute.
They are, Steve.
I would just say, Steve, there's one for you.
Yeah, honestly. Honestly. Brilliant. Absolutely
right, John.
Brilliant.
To round this off, we've got some more fans' questions. This one's always
cool.
My favourite part. This one's from Dan in Southampton.
Fudge, wait, can I ask one more?
Yeah, go on.
Sorry. So obviously now you've got your sports management company and you're representing players, etc., and it's Innovate, which we already wonder if it may be relevated.
Freudian.
Yeah, nice one.
Or related to a so-called drinks and sportswear brand.
No, mine's actually real.
All right. And do you represent anyone we would have heard of or we will be hearing of?
At this moment in time, nobody you will have heard of. I've got like quite a number of young lads on my books. I've started it in January last year, so obviously it's been like the handbrake's gone on it massively at this moment in time. But yeah, got 2 or 3, maybe 4 18, 19-year-olds who I think have got a real good chance. So yeah, you know, pleased with them. On the lookout, trying to get. But the difficult part at the moment is I'm obviously by myself, so it's really difficult to spread yourself thinly. And the biggest hurdle I think I come across with it is that all the games kick off at the same time on the same day. You know, so if you go into an under-18s or under-23 games, they're all relatively at the same time. So you can only get to, and I like to watch my own players who I represent because I want to keep an eye on them and see how they're doing. So you literally need to like split yourself into about 8 pieces. But yeah, it's growing and it's getting better, and I'm loving doing it. And hoping that I can just give something back, you know what I mean? Just help them get somewhere, and in reality, somebody asked me the other day about money and that kind of thing, and I was like, well, I ain't earned a penny out of it yet, really. But it's not about the money, really. It's more, I would get as much enjoyment sitting in the stand and watching one of my players make his first team debut. I'd be absolutely over the moon with that. So
yeah. you wouldn't do one of your own advice, what you did earlier. So you wouldn't take your own advice with one of your players, say, go into that to Ron Atkinson and say, no, shove your contract. I'm going to move.
Well, no, you know, as daft as it sounds, you know, because the format of football has changed considerably. So when I played, you got an under-19s, you got reserves, and you got first team. So I made my debut at 15 in the reserves. So at 16, 17, I was playing in the under-18s, under-19s, or Northern Intermediates, as they call it, and I was playing in the reserves nearly every week. Now, the step up from the intermediates to reserves was massive, because you're playing against 17, 18-year-old lads, and then on the Tuesday night, you're playing against, I remember turning up against Villa, like Alan McAnally was playing. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, so now they have under-23s and under-18s, but the under-23s are only allowed to play 3 overage players, and they hardly ever do. So you've got lads at 21, 22 years of age who've never played what I deem men's football. they've only ever played under 23 football. So if I ring the manager and say, I've got a kid here, he's been released at 21 years of age, he's good, he's a centre back or whatever, the first question they'll ask is, how many games has he played? Well, he's played 60 under 23 games. And nearly everybody in football will say, no. How many games has he played? You know, so one of the pieces of advice I try to get into my players is you need to get out and play as much men's football as you can. And that's generally getting out on loan, non-league, maybe not lower end non-league, but toughens you up. You become a man. You realise that I'm playing on Saturday for 3 points, and them 3 points are do or die for this football club. There might be 200 people watching you, but guess what? This is their football club. And it is massively important how you perform and how well you do. And that grows you and makes you a more mature individual. You know, that's, for me, very similar to what I wanted to do when I was 20 years of age. You know what I mean? So...
Can I interest you in a 39-year-old centre-back who's quite charismatic, does drop a lot of C-bombs and gets sent off quite a lot?
We always try and...
I've got to be honest with you. Go on, sorry, Nick.
We always try and pimp out Stevie's team, or Fudge tries to get a role. We forget that Ben's the semi-pro footballer of the podcast down there.
Ben's got years in front of him. You know what I mean? He's got loads of time to try and schmooze.
He's all over himself for him.
He's playing the world's oldest football club.
Right, we're ready. I'm gonna wind this out with some quick fire ones again, John. Fans' questions once again. So, did Carol Baskin kill her husband? Have you not seen Tiger King?
No, I don't.
Nobody has.
No,
I don't watch that shit. I think my stepdaughter watches it, but nah, not for me.
Okay, do you ever, when on Leeds United TV, get distracted by Emma Jones's shirt potatoes?
Fudge!
Because I do.
I've got to be honest with you. I've only ever been on Leeds United TV once, but sometimes when we walk in the lounge to do the half-time summary and the TV's on, people don't really take a lot of notice of us.
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't know where to look. You know what I
mean? We do have to we mute it, but I don't think that works either.
You know what? She's such a lovely girl, and she's
a right laugh.
Really hard, Fudge.
She does. I've just not got as eye as a mouth yet. But anyway,
she's a nice girl, actually.
Do you know how to change the oil filter on a 1997 Toyota Celica?
Do they look like they've ever done a day's work?
I'll put no. And who would win in a fight, Peter Atherton or Emerson Tome?
Oh, Peter Atherton.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Emerson Tome was meant to be built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah, but I bet Peter Atherton's dirty.
Oh yeah, I know.
Not the size of the dog in the fight, is it? It's the size of the fight in the dog.
There we go.
That's the name of my sex tape. Ladies and gents, thanks a lot to Mr. Jon Newsome. Thanks a lot for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thanks
check us off
me.
Facebook quick, because I've not said the C-bomb.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week, bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live.
I normally just turn up and phone it in.
I'm a little bit older than you.
That zero's gone. That goose egg's gone.
Also featuring player interviews.
It's Mr. Lee Bullen, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. John Harps, ladies and gentlemen. It's Captain Fantastic once again. It's Mr. Glenn Lubens.
Oh, it's Mr. David Stockdale joining us this evening.
It's Mr. Lloyd Owusu, ladies and gentlemen. He's joining us live on the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Carlton Palmer. How's it going, CP? You all right? Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday Week 24-25 season. Join us next season.
Put on your